On a nice day, a regular family celebrates a kid's birthday. Dad cooks barbecue, Mom talks with friends, and the kids watch a cowboy twirl a lasso. Later, they all eat cake. But Cooper's daughter suddenly stops, staring at the distance. Cooper sees a huge mushroom-shaped cloud rising over the city. Seconds later, a blast wave hits their home. Cooper hides his family in a shelter while he and his daughter ride away on a horse as more mushroom clouds appear. 219 years later, Lucy is a young woman living in shelter number 33 with her dad and brother Norman. But it's hard to find a man who isn't related to her. So, the council lets her marry someone from another colony. Lucy happily wears the communal wedding dress while her dad, the shelter's leader, and neighbors set up tables for the wedding in a field with a 3D image of faraway mountains. Her dad is glad for her, but wishes her mom could see the wedding. Then, it's time for people to head to the portal, guarded by Chad, Lucy's cousin. He's had a crush on Lucy for a long time, but knows it's not right because of family rules. Chad presses a button and the portal opens, letting in visitors from a nearby colony. Their leader reminds everyone they need new seeds and machine parts, and they bring a guy for Lucy. They get married, and everyone sits down to eat. The shelter's residents notice the guests are strange, but don't pay much attention. Lucy's dad gives a speech, hoping the next generation can live on the surface. People dance, but Norman isn't happy. The groom asks Lucy to show him the bedroom, and she does. While Norman patrols, he finds a dead person. Lucy hears a scream. She puts on a bracelet, finding out her husband is infected with radiation. He attacks her, but she fights back and knocks him out. She takes care of herself and gets a gun, then goes to find her tribe. She kills an alien she meets, but then leaves the room. She sees a real fight. Lucy saves Norman when her ex-husband appears, but her dad drowns him in a barrel of water and rushes to a signal about a door breach. Lucy follows him and faces a group of aliens holding the shelter's residents hostage. The attacker's leader gives her dad a choice: his people or Lucy. Confused, Lucy's dad locks her away, then the aliens take him from the surface. When an explosion destroys the gates, back on Earth at the Brotherhood of St. Barracks, young men are beating up Paladin Maximus. His friend helps him and takes him to classes where they learn useful skills for the wasteland, as they will soon be knights. They learn to identify ancient artifacts as seekers and guardians. Later, Steel Knights arrive at the base, impressing Maximus. His friend takes him to see their armor in a hangar. Maximus hears cheers and learns some have been promoted, including his friend who will assist Knight Titus. But in the morning, the barracks are startled by a scream. Someone put a blade in the future assistant's boot, injuring her foot badly. Maximus is arrested and taken to the Brotherhood's leader in the shelter. Lucy stitches up her stomach wound, and people gather for a council meeting. She asks for a squad to be sent to the surface to find her father, but the council refuses. Lucy gathers what she needs and heads to the gates with her brother Chad. Chad wants to go with her, but she calms him down and says goodbye to Norman. The gates open, and Lucy steps onto the surface, heading towards the sea. Maximus is accused of hurting a friend out of jealousy, but he denies it. The leader realizes he's innocent and appoints him as an assistant to a Steel Knight. The next day, the leader tasks the Knights and their assistants with finding an escaped scientist who stole something important. Knight Titus and Maximus take off in a helicopter to their assigned area. Meanwhile, a group of bounty hunters tries to get a wild ghoul to help them find the scientist. The ghoul turns on the hunters and goes his own way. Lucy travels across the surface and camps near an abandoned house. She falls asleep by the fire and wakes up to strange sounds. She sees a dog eating a big insect. A man by her fire explains that the cockroaches survived the nuclear blasts and mutated, becoming dangerous. He advises Lucy to go back to the shelter, but she needs to find her father. The man leaves. Meanwhile, the Steel Knight and Maximus land in the right sector. The scientist and his dog hide in a cave. Later, the Knight and Maximus arrive there. Maximus finds the scientist's tracks, and they go into the cave. A huge mutant cave bear attacks. The Knight fights, but the beast overpowers him, and the Knight runs away. Maximus kills the bear and decides to find the scientist alone. He wears the armor and learns to use it. He realizes his strength has increased and saves someone weak, although they turn out to be bad. He learns he needs to choose who to protect carefully. Lucy arrives in a town where she's told to search for clues about her father's kidnappers. In a shop, an old saleswoman, recognizing her as from the shelter, warns her to leave. Shelters were where the rich hid while the world ended, so no one here will help her. Outside, the scientist with the dog approaches her again, surprised she's still there. Then the saleswoman, who was waiting for him, calls out, and suddenly a ghoul appears, also after the scientist. He shoots the scientist's leg to stop him from running, and fights others after the reward. Lucy sneaks into the shop, finds an order book, and learns Moldover's address. She wants to leave but sees the ghoul hurt the scientist's dog. She stands up for them and shoots the ghoul, but it doesn't affect him much. Then a knight arrives. Maximus asks Lucy to look after the scientist while he fights the ghoul. They take the injured scientist into the shop, where the woman helps him and gives Lucy Moldover's coordinates. They leave while the ghoul fights the knight. Maximus struggles with the suit, losing his way, and the ghoul realizes the scientist has escaped. Lucy and the scientist stop to rest, and she's horrified by his bloodied leg. She knows they won't make it, and he agrees, admitting he'll soon die. He tells her to take his head to Moldover. He takes out a saw and dies. Later, the ghoul finds the scientist's body without a head and follows Lucy's tracks. She stops to rest and snacks, then examines the head, wondering what's special about it. She puts a tracking device in its nostril, just in case. Maximus finds a malfunction in the armor and gets a surprise call from the base. He reports his assistant's death and opposes the replacement. He goes to a nearby town, pays to fix the module, but finds local marauders trying to dismantle the armor. He fights them, but gets hit hard. He wakes up to find the armor damaged. He grabs metal and fights off the attackers. A helicopter arrives, dropping off a new assistant. Maximus closes the helmet, and the new assistant doesn't realize it's not him. Lucy reaches Hollywood's old site and stops by a pond. An unknown monster attacks, taking the scientist's head backpack and vanishing into the water. Lucy tries to track it, but is targeted by the ghoul. She tells him about the head. Meanwhile, the Shelter Council investigates Lucy's escape. Norman realizes no one plans to search for their father or sister in the desert. Maximus torments the assistant, seeking revenge for past humiliations. But the assistant continues to serve the Steel Knight willingly. They use a special device to track the ghoul's prints, finding the scientist's headless body. Meanwhile, the ghoul hunts an underwater monster, using Lucy as bait. The beast grabs Lucy, but the ghoul rescues her. She fights back, but the monster escapes with her boot. The ghoul drags Lucy along angrily. Meanwhile, the assistant fills the armor with water, sharing his life story. Maximus asks him to talk about himself, and the boy admits he was a good person who got bullied like any other newbie. He regrets Maximus not being there for service. They reach the pond and see the monster. Maximus tells the assistant to go ashore while he fights. The boy shoots at the monster, drawing its attention. Maximus saves him from the monster, which dies, spitting out the scientist's head and Lucy's boot. A dog joins them. The ghoul leads Lucy through the wasteland, denying her water, until they reach the place where a movie studio once stood, where actor Cooper and his wife worked. They arrive at an abandoned clinic where they hear male screams. Inside, they find an old acquaintance of the ghoul undergoing painful mutations. The ghoul ends his suffering because they need food. Lucy is confused why he did it, but he explains they have to eat something. She protests they never ate their own kind. The ghoul forces Lucy to cut up the body for meat. They continue, but Lucy struggles without water. They stop at a structure with radioactive water. Lucy drinks, earning the ghoul's approval. She's starting to understand wasteland life. He believes they have a future together. Then he coughs, and Lucy tries to escape but gets caught in his lasso. She bites off his finger, and he cuts off one of hers. They reach an old supermarket where the ghoul offers Lucy in exchange for supplies. Inside, she meets a robot that implants a new finger, but reveals it will take her organs. It sedates her. In the shelter, Norman is delivering food to captured aliens from a previous attack. One of them confesses that the residents of shelter number 32, captured earlier, were planning something bad. Norman tries to access information about shelter number 32, but finds it classified. With Chad, they clear the debris and enter shelter number 32, finding a destroyed area and dead inhabitants. They realize the residents killed each other before the aliens arrived. Lucy wakes up to find many women locked in glass cabinets to be dissected for organs. The robot prepares to open her chest, but she cuts her bonds and disables the robot. She fills syringes with drain cleaner, reprograms the robot, and goes to confront the owners of the place. She forces them to release the prisoners, and some escape, but not all. Lucy forces the last cages open, and zombies come out, attacking the organ traders. Lucy is horrified as the last zombie prepares to attack her, but she finds a pistol in her hand. Norman and Chad continue exploring the neighboring shelter and discover its door was open from the outside, with a key labeled with their mother's name. Lucy finds medicine for the ghoul and, despite her suffering, gives it to him. She knows she'll never be like him on the inside, no matter how she looks on the outside. She leaves, and the ghoul takes the medicine to regain some semblance of order. He watches an old tape of Cooper playing a cowboy on TV. Maximus and his assistant settle down to rest. The assistant, Fuss, is overjoyed at being rescued, as knights rarely treat their assistants kindly. He asks to be branded, and Maximus agrees, lifting his helmet. However, upon recognizing Maximus, Fuss attacks, breaking Maximus's leg. But Thaddeus, the assistant, manages to extract a nuclear core from the armor, immobilizing it, and leaves, taking the scientist's head. Giant cockroaches attack the immobilized suit, but they scatter when Lucy approaches, armed. She explains why she needs the scientist's head, helps Maximus out of the suit, and he gives her medication for radiation sickness. Lucy suggests they go after the head together, since she has a tracker. They plan to hand it over to the Brotherhood, who will help Lucy find her father. Maximus agrees. Meanwhile, in Shelter 33, Betty is elected as the warden instead of Lucy's father. Norman is unhappy with this and researches the shelter's history. He realizes that all wardens were chosen from residents of Shelter 31. Lucy and Maximus reach a bridge where they encounter two vagrants who stop them. They pretend to be afraid and ask to pass, but the vagrants raise their hands and try to walk away. Maximus, suspicious, manages to shoot first, saving their lives but injuring his hand. Lucy realizes how naive the shelter's residents are. They come across a billboard for the New California Republic. Lucy is upset because they believe they're meant to revive America, but it seems everything has already happened on the surface. Maximus reassures her, saying there's no republic anyway. Soon they reach a huge crater in the city. Maximus confesses he survived by hiding in a refrigerator. Lucy notices Maximus's wound is serious and leads him to a building with a clinic sign. Maximus falls behind, and when he enters, Lucy is gone. He searches for her and enters a chamber between two doors, where gas fills the space and he loses consciousness. Betty leads her people to Shelter 32 to announce a partial relocation, deeming the resources too valuable. Chad and Norman are surprised to find the bodies gone and all traces of the tragedy erased. Norman asks about his mother's key after her death. Betty reveals they buried her with it. Maximus and Lucy regain consciousness in the shelter on stretchers. Maximus receives medical care. The shelter leader asks them to stay as Maximus needs treatment, and suppliers will soon deliver armor here. Lucy thanks them. The couple spends hours in quarantine. It's revealed Maximus never experienced a woman's love. Lucy has to teach him, though it's not customary among knights. Later, they notice many people around them have physical deformities. The caretaker is a cyclops, which puzzles Lucy but not Maximus. The caretaker tells Lucy they accept people from the surface, surprising her as it was forbidden in her shelter. When she asks about the forbidden level, the caretaker ends the conversation. Maximus finds a room with a nuclear block powering the entire underground. The leader gives him an electronic key to his personal compartment and suggests he rest. Inside, he finds a basket filled with various delicacies and things he's never seen before. He takes a real shower for the first time, puts on a robe and slippers, and indulges in unknown products. Meanwhile, Lucy discovers a room detailing the history of the Californian Republic. Life here was revived in 2142, but destroyed in 2277. Lucy wonders who wanted a new war and why. Suddenly, all shelter inhabitants hear a signal and gather at the designated place. A ghoul is caught by the new president of the territory, who owned a supermarket trading in organs. The ghoul is blamed for its destruction. He calmly asks for a needle and thread to sew his finger back on and asks for directions to find Moldaver. The president orders him to be killed. The ghoul decides to find Moldaver himself. Lucy joins everyone in a room with an altar surrounded by burning candles. People begin to sing and move their hands, and Lucy falls into a trance, shocked when people start undressing. They smear ashes of the deceased on their faces and drink blood, calling to the Mother of Flame for salvation. An image of Moldaver appears above them. A frightened Lucy urges Maximus to run away, but he's enjoying the paradise-like conditions and doesn't want to leave. So Lucy heads to the forbidden level. she enters a laboratory where it seems genetic experiments on people were conducted. Horrified, she examines the gruesome exhibits and notices glass cryocapsules containing human bodies. Suddenly, the lights turn on and a man in a white coat enters. Lucy hides, but he hears a noise, finds her, and they struggle. More men arrive, see her, and drag her to the upper level. Meanwhile, the ghoul arrives at the digger's house. The eldest son knows Moldaver's location. The frightened man orders the boy to tell all, and he reveals Moldaver can be found at the observatory. When the ghoul is about to leave, the boy tries to kill him and pays with his life. At the shelter, leaders shame Lucy for betraying their hospitality. They fed her, healed her friend, but she's furious because of what she's seen them do to people. They show her a recording of an attack on the laboratory by monsters, revealing the shelter's first inhabitants experimented on people, turning them into monsters. They're only trying to ease the pain of those who survived. Each shelter specializes in some experiment, and Lucy didn't know this. Despite that, she must be punished for her disobedience. They lead her away, which Maximus witnesses. The shelter inhabitants sentence Lucy to exile to the surface, supplying her with food, which surprises her. In her last words, she asks them to let her friends stay. But Maximus appears in knight's armor with a stolen nuclear block. He scatters the men, but Lucy stops him as they're letting her go anyway. They go to the surface, and Lucy convinces him to return the nuclear block as the shelter can't survive without energy. They drop it down, and Lucy, moved, calls him a good person. He confesses that he allowed a knight to perish and took his armor, so he's not a good person, but he really wants to go with her. Thaddeus encounters a man claiming to be a doctor who offers to fix his leg in exchange for a nuclear block. The doctor gives him a potion that miraculously heals his leg. Meanwhile, the ghoul finds the locked dog, which leads him to Thaddeus's trail. Thaddeus reaches a radio station surrounded by traps. He sends a signal to the Brotherhood and chats with the station owner about music. Maximus and Lucy arrive, and Lucy asks for the scientist's head. Thaddeus accidentally triggers a trap, but strangely, he doesn't feel like dying. Maximus realizes he's become a zombie. Thaddeus regrets trusting the doctor. With the Brotherhood's arrival imminent, Maximus suggests giving them the scientist's head and fleeing, which Thaddeus takes as his chance to escape. Maximus gives the scientist's head to Lucy and grabs the head of someone else who was caught in a trap nearby. He tells Lucy to run, and she kisses him, promising to wait for him in Shelter 33. Meanwhile, some residents of Shelter number 33 receive notifications about relocation to the neighboring block. Norman takes advantage of this and gains access to Shelter 31 deceitfully, heading there. Servants arrive and take Maximus to the camp. He hands over the obtained head to the leader, admitting his knight perished after finding nothing in the head. Maximus shouts that he knows where to find the real head. The leader orders him to be released, and everyone prepares for a performance. Meanwhile, Lucy reaches the observatory where her father is sitting in a cage. Seated at the table, Moldaver greets Lucy, who is horrified to see a dried-up yet still living mummy seated next to her. Lucy offers to give Moldaver the head in exchange for her freedom. Moldaver extracts a vial from the head and offers to share the true story of Lucy's father, despite his pleas for her not to listen. Moldaver begins her story. Meanwhile, Norman discovers a robot with a human brain in the secret Shelter 31. The robot immediately tries to inject Norman with something, but he narrowly avoids the crazy machine. Moldaver's story takes Lucy back to the distant pre-war years, when actor Cooper, concerned by his wife's talks of an impending nuclear war, decides to investigate. He bugs his wife's workplace and listens to a corporate council meeting where billionaires discuss the decline in worldwide sales and the necessity of shelters. There's a debate about the effectiveness of shelters and the possibility of outliving others. Cooper's wife prioritizes their daughter's future and wants to secure the best outcome for her. In the future, Norman enters a room filled with rows of cryocapsules, each bearing the names of those who slept in them, including all the wardens, including his father. The scene shifts back to the past, where Cooper's wife reveals that over 100 shelters were built across America so each person could fulfill their dreams in the future. The robot explains to Norman that these people were selected for their creativity and positivity, chosen to revive the nation after the surface is cleansed. In the past, there's a debate about the morality of destroying so many lives. Cooper's wife suggests initiating the war themselves, seeing it as an opportunity to start anew without competition. Cooper, distracted by a fan seeking an autograph, is Lucy's young father. In the event, Moldover reveals that Lucy's father has lived for a very long time. He's part of the corporation responsible for orchestrating the horrors, but he never revealed it to his wife, who was the one to discover irregularities in the shelter's water supply. She realized that civilization had returned, but her husband mocked her. Then the woman took the children and fled. They found a wonderful city, but her father came with his men and burned it down. Lucy brought Moldover the sea fusion she developed and stolen by corporations. Infinite energy with which life can be revived. Lucy sees a pendant on the mummy's neck that belonged to her mother and realizes what happened to her. Her father begs her not to believe Moldover, but the girl demands that he give her the synthesis code. He relents and provides the numbers. The woman leaves for the laboratory to start the cold fusion process. Meanwhile, the robot informs Norman that it will not let him leave after what he has learned. At the same time, Lucy's father pleads with her to open the cage and return home just as an alarm sounds and Brotherhood copters appear over the observatory, opening fire on the people below. Knights and their assistants descend to the ground and engage in battle with the observatory's defenders. Maximus rushes forward, searching for Lucy, while the Knights wreak havoc around. Soon the Knights burst inside the building, where they are suddenly stopped by a ghoul. It turns out he too once wore armor and knows their vulnerabilities. Thus he easily shoots the Iron Knights, remaining unharmed himself. At this time, Lucy is torn between her father's pleas to come home and the terrible situation of her mother. But then, at the room's threshold, a wounded knight falls, followed by Maximus. He opens the cage and rushes to Lucy. However, the girl confesses that it was her father who destroyed his wonderful city. Her father, meanwhile, dons armor and throws Maximus aside, knocking him unconscious. The girl pulls out a gun, but then the ghoul enters the room. When he learns Lucy's surname, he can't believe that this is the same guy from the corporation he had waited over 200 years to find out where his family was. Lucy's father activates jet engines and flees. However, it turns out that this was exactly what the ghoul needed, as the man leaves a trail that can easily be followed to the place where the world's rulers are hiding, those who orchestrated the nuclear war. He urges Lucy to come with him. Then Lucy shoots the mummy, says goodbye to the unresponsive Maximus, and follows the ghoul. At the same time, an injured Moldover returns to the room where Maximus regains consciousness. She has activated the nuclear synthesis, and now people have infinite energy. A stunned Maximus watches as surviving lanterns light up over the ruins of the city, while Moldover smiles and dies. The Brotherhood members who rush think their comrade killed the woman and celebrate Maximus as a future knight. Meanwhile, the ghoul and Lucy follow the trail of her father, who heads through the desert to a distant city. The series ends there. Subscribe to our channel for more captivating series.